Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inspirational Stories on the Other Side of Fear. And we're going to talk about on the other side of loss tonight, too. So, I wanted to come on and share a very inspirational and challenging journey that my dear friend Rita and colleague as well. Rita is not only a dear friend, but she's also a spiritual teacher, guide, healer, and a medium. So it's going to be a very supportive sharing tonight. And welcome everybody that's coming on to join in. And so I know, and Rita and I talked about this before we went on live, that many are challenged during the holiday seasons, missing their loved ones who are not at the dinner table. Maybe they are not there physically because they're in other parts of the country, but also our loved ones who have passed to the other side, especially over the past 3 years. Many people are struggling during the holidays with not being with their loved ones who are in spirit. So I really felt this is the fourth one in this series. And I asked Rita, and I know she's been busy, and I said, can you please fit me in so we can? And it worked out perfectly because
Right.
we are just coming into Thanksgiving. So, Rita, do you want to share a little bit or as much as you want about your journey with your daughter, Erica?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
This experience happened, as I just said to Karen before, when I was going through it, and I kept saying to Spirit, what should I do with this? I kept hearing, you're to share the story. They said either write a book or do public speaking about it. And I've written 2 books. I don't want to write another one. So I decided I would go ahead and speak about it. So I want to share this story with you, because losing a loved one is a profound experience, and we never know how we're going to go through it. It's different in every single case. Since my daughter passed, I lost 6 other close friends.
Mm.
So, and I was again very aware of how different the experiences were. But with my daughter Erica, it was on December 11th on 2020, and I knew that something was going on with her. I had been telling her for the last 2 years, something's not right, Erica. Something is just not right. And not only do I believe every mother can feel, what is going on with their kids, but as a medium, I kept getting messages about what's going on. And so on that particular date, my new knees were 1 year old. I'd gone to my doctor and I called Erica with the great news that he said, this is fabulous. Your legs are incredible. I can't believe how well you're doing. And I wanted to share that with my girl. And I called her up because she was one of the few people that phone chats. Most people text, but she phone chats. And so I called her up and she said, well, you have good news and I have bad news. And I said, oh, what's the bad news? And she said, I just came from the doctor. I just had my scans. So she had her scans every 6 months. She had a brain tumor about 8 years ago. She had the scans every 6 months. And she said, the doctor said, I have sarcoma. It's all through my body. It's in my spine. It's in my liver. It's in my lungs. And no matter what I do, I have no more than 2 years to live.
Mm. So Rita, can we pause there for a second? Because Can I ask you, what was that experience and that feeling like for you as a mother?
Oh, and immediately it was horror. I mean, I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was in my studio at the time. And, I have a young woman that has a studio next door, Shishi, who you know. And she was the only one that was in because it was in the morning. And I just walked into her studio and I said, this is what's happening. We're close friends, but we don't socialize. And there she was, and she just held me in her arms while I cried. And that crying is important to do, the
Yeah.
crying of letting go.
And
So
feeling the terror. You can't deny it. We're
can't
human,
deny
right?
the terror. The terror was definitely there. Um, one of the scariest things I've ever experienced, because through my mind, I kept saying, how am I going to deal with her? What do I need to do for her? How am I going to deal with my grandchildren? You know, what's going to happen with her husband? What's my relationship going to be with my grandchildren after this happens? So all of these questions are flying through my head. So at the very beginning, Erica decided she would take treatments. And then the doctor kept saying, it's not going to extend your life. You have to know that you're going to end up either passing from organ failure with the treatment because of the treatments, or the cancer will take you over. So she did the treatments for about 8 months. Of course, the pandemic was going on, so to, you know, complicate situations. She did the treatments for about 7 or 8 months. And then she said, I've had it. I can't go around being constantly sick, because she had absolutely no quality of life while she was going through these treatments. And she said, what's the sense? If it's not going to extend my life, if it's not going to do anything for me, what's the sense? And
How did you stay strong, Rita? How did you move through that time? You know, again, you were so focused on her, but you had a lot going on in yourself as well.
yes, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, what did
Um,
you do to cope?
every morning I would get up, and I know this sounds corny and, you know, hokey, but I would get up. I would be thankful for what I had. I wanted to make sure the days we had together were going to be good ones. I wanted to make sure that she felt loved every minute, that until she took her last breath. And I know she still feels loved because she visits me all the time. But, you know, I wanted to make sure she felt that she knew without a question she was loved continuously. And so I got up with the concept of, yeah, this is horrible and this is scary. And yet every time there was time to do something, I would get a message from spirit on how to do it.
Wow.
So,
So
you know,
your connection to your spirit, your connection to spirit, your spiritual toolbox,
right,
all of that.
all worked with me,
Yeah.
all worked with me the whole time. I have very dear friends, including you, who were so supportive and so loving and so there for me, and always checking in that I was doing okay, which allowed me to have the focus to make sure she was doing okay.
And I know you, Rita. I mean, we've known each other for I
A
don't even.
very long time. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I I know it wasn't always easy for you to receive help and support.
Correct. Correct.
And I
This time I
thought,
made sure. This time I made sure
I know you did.
I was not going to tell anybody I'm okay, go away, which is my normal way, or was my normal way of being. I was going, and a lot of people become very uncomfortable when you're going through something like this. So you really find out who loves you enough to be there for you.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And so when I was aware that, you know, you and Joanne and Donna and Maureen and so on were there for me, we're not asking of me, we're not saying you have to do for me, but were there for me, that allowed me to accept the love in so I could give the love out, because it's all energy.
Yeah. And
It's
you
all energy.
also, I know you had to navigate, and I think this is important for people going through, is you had to navigate what you could give to others and what you needed to,
Absolutely.
how you
And,
needed
you know,
to save your own energy.
and you know, many years ago, I took something called reevaluation counseling or co-counseling, and they gave me a big button that said, I just said no and I don't feel guilty. I will tell you that this taught me how to say no and not feel guilty, because there was no way I could do for everybody else now, which is my normal way of being.
Yeah.
That I had to preserve my energy for my husband, for my other daughter, and for Erica.
Yeah.
So because they needed me too, and the need that I could feel coming from them
Yeah.
was profound.
And
Was
so
profound.
now as time got closer to that time, because, I know you're going to share how you made the decision to bring her to your home,
Yeah.
and
Well,
please share that. Yeah.
so
How did that all unfold?
well, we were at the doctor's office. It was the visitors were finally allowed to come upstairs with you because during COVID, there was a good few months that we had to wait down in the cafe with a mask on while she was up getting her treatment, and then she would come down. So it was in November and of 2021, and I went to the doctor's visit with her. And she announced at that point that she's decided she's not going to continue any treatments. And the doctor said, then we have to talk about what's going to happen next. And so the doctor basically said, we'll have to make hospice arrangements and so on and so forth. And he said, you're aware that costs a lot of money, or you can do it at home. And I knew that in her house, it was not going to be a place that she could relax, that she could rest, that she could feel happy at that particular time. So what I decided was immediately at that point, I said to the doctor, she will come to my house and I will take care of her.
And how was Erica about that?
She just looked at me and, her eyes opened wide. Her eyes were very green. So when they opened wide, they really looked huge. And so she just looked at me and she said, are you sure? I said, 100%. I said, I'm your mother and I love you. And
How did you know that in that moment, Rita? Did you just know it and you just
knew it?
Just came
Just
out?
knew it. There was no question.
Just came out
right out of my mouth. Right out of my mouth. Maybe it was my mother talking through me. I don't know. But it just came right on out of my mouth that I was going to do that. And when I was asked, was I sure? I knew I was.
Wow.
There was no question about it.
Yeah.
And so on February 17th, she moved in of 2022, she moved into our home. And at first everything was, nice and light and easy. And we would hang out together. It was like having a pajama party all the time because she was still feeling, when she stopped the chemo, she started feeling a little bit better.
And she had Rita's good food.
And she had my good food, yes. But, I noticed that as time went on, she would ask for this great thing that she wanted for dinner and then take 3 bites.
Yeah.
So that happened. So she moved into our house. And one of the things that I do want to mention is that both the summer before she decided to stop treatments, my daughter Deb and I decided to get elephants tattooed on our wrists. And she said, why are you doing this? And I said, we're doing this so you know that whenever we look at our wrists, we will think of you. And again, that was so important that she know how much she was loved, because I don't think because of her situation, I don't think she really felt that.
But it also feels to me when I witnessed that is that it connected the 3 of you too.
It very much so.
Yeah.
And then we went she loved elephants, as I said. And then we went on a trip to a safari land to see the elephants walking around. And now they have a low gate or low fence, like this wire thing that holds them back from going on the road. So I took a photograph of it and then I edited the photograph to get rid of the fence so they looked like they were just walking in the wild. And then I did a painting of the elephants so she could have it next to her bed. So when she came here, we hung that painting in the room next to her bed so she could see the elephants all the time. So anyhow, we'd hang out at home. We had like pajama parties. We watched Beat Bobby Flay and we watched, Tournament of Champions. And she likes the cooking channel. She wasn't eating anything, but boy, she loved to watch cooking. And so the disease.
I'm just going to pause you there for a moment because it feels like you were living in the moment.
You had to. There was no option. And living that's one of the things. I mean, it was an amazing spiritual lesson. And being a spiritual teacher, I could see the lessons as I was getting them. I could see what was happening. I could see the experience of saying, okay, you have to be in the moment. What's happening right now? I
Right.
couldn't be thinking of shows or demonstrations or anything else that I was going to be doing. It was what's happening
Or
right now.
what's going to happen. You had to stay
No,
present.
no, I have to, no, it was
Yeah.
what's happened. I had to be absolutely in the moment. I couldn't go to what's going to happen.
Right.
Okay. I had to be in the moment. I had to be there. Because I had to be aware of what I was getting from spirit, as well as aware of what I was seeing in front of me. And, again, the connection of spirit to me during that time was profound. For instance, when she could no longer stand on her own, so couldn't walk to the restroom, we put a commode in her room. Then her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. And so I asked spirit, what do I do? What do I do as I'm dealing with this? And as I did, they showed me Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers dancing. I said, okay, that's humorous. What do I do? And then I said, Erica, put your arms around my neck. I put my arms around her waist. I stood her up and we danced as I turned her around. And I said, hold on to my neck. And I, disrobed her, and she
I
did.
got chills listening to you.
And so, but again, that's how it kept happening for me. And so the fact, how to roll her over in the bed, how to do everything, they showed it to me.
Okay, but I want to pause you there, because what can you share with people that might not have that strong connection with you? What can you share with them about being able to be there for somebody in that presence, and how can you guide them to reach out and ask for that and be open to that, even when they don't feel it as strong as you do?
And that's true. So the first thing I would suggest to them is to acknowledge the fear.
Okay.
Because when I realized I couldn't get her up, one time I tried to get her up, the two of us went down. It was before, and so the two of us went down, and we could reach a cell phone. And I called her husband and I said, we're both on the floor. It's you or the fire department. Who's coming? and so he said, I'm 4 minutes away. I'll be right there. And
so when you say acknowledge fear, what did that feel like? Or what does that feel like to acknowledge fear? What happened?
Am I allowed to use 4-letter words on this program?
Well, maybe you use the first word, first letter.
Okay. What the SH is going on. Okay. And so
just
what's going on? What do I need to do?
Okay.
What do I need to do to deal with it? And that's whenever I asked, whether you want to say I was bilocating, but I was in spirit as well as being here.
Yeah. So you knew how to do that. So if somebody is like, not as experienced in that, what I'm hearing you saying is acknowledge the fear, feel it, but just somehow ask for whatever you need.
Acknowledge it. Wow. I'm blank and scared.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Acknowledge it. And then say to spirit, and for those people who don't understand speaking to spirit, it will sound like the voices in your head.
Yeah.
Okay. And we all know what that feels like.
Yeah.
So you ask spirit, what do I need to do? And then keep quiet for a moment and allow yourself to hear or see or feel the answer. Because if you are going, oh yeah, what do I need to do? 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 You're not going to hear anything.
Stay stuck in fear. It's not about staying stuck in fear. It's about acknowledging it. Take a pause, ask,
let it go. Go back to being right in the moment. Because when you're in fear, you're not in the moment.
Right. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Okay. So
great advice.
Stay in the moment. Acknowledge it. Give yourself 30 seconds, whatever you feel you can afford at that time, to feel the fear, and then let it go.
Yeah.
And then turn it over. Okay, God, whatever this is supposed to be. So the first time that happened, And Erica and I are lying on the floor in her bedroom, and we're both laughing, because she was still well enough to get a good chuckle out of this. And the fact that I had to call her husband, she thought was even funnier. And so and so I ended up, Scott came, he lifted her up immediately, and I'm like sitting there like,
what about me?
what about me? So I pulled on the side of the bed and climbed up, but she was sort of lying on top of me when we were on the floor. I was glad she wasn't on the floor itself, but she was lying on top of me. And so anyhow, so he came, and then the dance thing came. And so then that settled, and she loved when we did the dance thing, because when I would say, okay, put your arms around my neck, and I would start to do the dance, and then we started to hold on to the hand, and and we did the dance each time. That took us through a good few weeks.
Wow. It sounds
Where
like
even though the decline was happening, she knew what to do, I knew what to do, and we did it.
Yeah, and it sounds like there was a balance of this very uncomfortable, challenging transition, but somehow this playfulness and this humor brought this light into the dark feelings.
Right. And one of the things I have to say is, I always say my guides have a sense of humor that is unbelievable. So they will constantly let me know what's going on and what I need to share. And so, time went on, and we'd smile and we'd laugh and we hang out together and so on and so forth. But I want to share what happened the night before she passed, because that was incredible. And then I want to share some of the things that happened since.
Right, on the other side.
On the other side of it. So the night before she passed, it was about 11 o'clock, and she could do nothing at that point. She couldn't turn. She couldn't move her. She couldn't open her. She could just breathe. That's all that was happening. All I could hear was her breathing. And so 11 o'clock, I heard my guides very clearly say to me, go into her room. And so I went into her room, and I laid down next to her, and I wanted her to be able to feel the warmth of my body. And don't start crying, because then I have to talk. And then what happened was, at 2 a.m., all of a sudden she picked up her hand. This is somebody who could not move at all. She picked up her hand and she grabbed my wrist, right where that tattoo of the elephant is. And so I realized what was going on, and I yelled out, hey, Mom, she's coming. And because Erica had always said, please, the only thing I want you to do for me is put my hand in Grandma's hand.
Yeah.
And so.
And you knew you could do that.
And I know I could do that. I knew I could do it. I mean, I've helped so many people pass. So the passing was not the hard part. The passing was actually beautiful. And so she grabbed onto my wrist. I called up to my mother. I saw my mother running around like she would before company was coming, cleaning the house, getting everything ready, making sure everything was fine, so on and so forth. So
wait, can I pause you there just for a second? Because people that, I want you to share, as a medium and having that experience, what you imagine it's like on the other side as people are getting ready and welcoming their loved ones home, because that can bring a lot of comfort to people.
That's been one of the most magnificent things of being a medium, is I've experienced that with so many clients that I've worked with. I've experienced that sensation of them crossing and who meets them. And I will tell you, the variety blows you away. It could be anything from what I call, a neighbor taking a hand and holding it and just taking them across, to the big Italian backyard barbecue where everybody is talking and laughing and drinking wine, and everybody's waiting, and there's crowds there waiting for the person. And it's not because a person's more popular than another person. It's just how their family functions. And, somebody many years ago, a very dear friend of mine, Dan Duffy, who's in spirit now, but he once gave a talk, and he said, when a child is born to the earth plane, comes into a room, usually that's brightly lit because it's in a hospital, right? And everybody cheers and everybody's happy and everybody is thrilled. But when a spirit goes home, the same thing happens there. that those people are thrilled and happy. We have her back again. We're with her. We love her. And so they're together.
Yeah. I hope
And
that brings a lot of comfort for people that wonder, what, and their pets will be there too.
the
I mean,
pets are there too. It's
I've seen
amazing.
that happen a lot of times.
I've seen it happen also. Even sometimes the pets tell me their name, and I say, like, how is it pets don't talk? I can never get that straight. How am I getting the name of the pet when I'm
Yeah.
doing a reading for somebody over the phone that happens to be in another part of the country? And how am I getting the pet's name?
Yeah.
And it happens.
So
So anyhow, at 4 a.m., my husband walked into the room. Later found out my daughter woke up, and the other daughter woke up. I don't want to call her the other daughter. Deb woke up at her house. And that's when I feel her spirit left her body. And one of the things that people are not always aware of, they think the minute that the spirit leaves the body is the end of life. The physical body many times lingers on. And so at 6 o'clock, I knew her spirit had left the body. But at 6 o'clock in the morning, I called her nurse who had an appointment to come at 11. I called the nurse, and the nurse who said, I will never answer my phone before 8:30. It's a work phone. It's off. Just know that. If you need somebody, call the VNA and they will send somebody over. And she called me back at 6:30 in the morning. And she said, what's going on? She was at my house at 7:30. Erica was pronounced at 8:03.
Wow.
So the fact that she could be there with us, the fact that we, and this again, I thank Spirit so much because I know that this angel was sent to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she would be willing to come, that she was there, that I wouldn't have to be alone, at that time. Or even if I was alone with my husband, it still would have been challenging.
Right.
The fact that she was there and she was calming everything down. And Erica's husband was there also by that time. And so it was just a godsend. And that's how I have to say it.
I get this visual and this almost like this beautiful dance unfolding.
I always said God was one heck of a choreographer.
Yeah. Oh, I got chills. And just
absolutely.
this dance unfolding that it could be this, everybody could in some way be supported and held in the way they needed to be held.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's what happened. So, it happened. I mean, the hardest part, I will say, the hardest part of all is, and for anybody who is going to go through this or has gone through it, when the physical body is taken out of the house.
Yeah.
That was horrible. That was just, watching them, have her on a stretcher being taken down the stairs and out to the funeral car. Yeah. Was just horrendous. And I can't say there's anything easy about that. So at that point you cry and you let it happen and you get it over with. And then if you're really lucky, then your good friends Karen and Louie come over to your house. And as soon as Karen and Louie heard, they were right there. So anyhow, on the other side, we made all the arrangements. So Erica was very quirky and very funny and sometimes could be wonderfully snarky. And it didn't stop when she passed. So when she passed, before she passed, she kept asking, my husband drives a convertible, and she kept saying, would you have Dad drive, find a really beautiful place, and you throw the ashes out the window? And so I said, we're going to do that. So we drove out to Royalston, Mass, where I knew there were beautiful waterfalls and lakes and everything else. And I said, let's go there. And I said, we got to a place where there was a bridge that goes across, a dam area. So the water is flooded, and there were beautiful scenery all around it. And so I said to my husband, I said, is this it? Is this cool? You like it? He says, this is perfect. So it was a very warm day. We had the top down. And I took the ashes over to the side and I started to pour them out and right back in my face. And I looked up and there was Erica, hysterical laughing, thinking this was the best thing she had ever seen.
In your face, Mom.
In your face, Mom. Exactly. In your face, Mom. And that was so her. That was so her.
Wow.
That it was perfect.
Wow.
So, that was one of the experiences. Another experience was, because I do this for everybody, for so many years. I started in 1984. Because I do this for so many people, I said, if I do this for so many people, I want to do it for myself.
Do what? Do what? Some
Connect.
people don't know you. Do
Oh,
what?
right. I connect with spirit. So
Okay.
if I could connect with your loved one, I could connect with my loved one.
Okay.
So I went up, David was driving, and I went up and I saw her, and she was standing profile, and she looked at me sort of snarky and said, she was standing there drying dishes, standing next to my mother. I never saw Erica dry a dish in her life. And she was using one of the old linen, red and white checked dish towels, which I haven't seen in years, right? So there she is, and she just turns her head and she looks at me and she says, it makes her happy. I said, okay. And so,
you knew she was in the company, in the love, in the connection of your mother.
That she was doing with my mother what my mother was happy. My mother would never have a dishwasher. You wash dishes by hand, you dry them, you wash, dry, put them away. That was her saying.
What did that do for you, Rita?
Oh, it was wonderful. But I was so excited that I couldn't fall asleep. So when we got home and we went to bed, and then it was like 10:30 at night, I said, well, I'm not done talking to you, honey. I want to talk to you some more. And so I started to, for those people, when you do mediumship, you sort of ascend, you go up, you sort of leave your physical body and you start to reach up. So I did that. And
in your mind's eye, you do that. With your eyes closed, you imagine yourself moving up.
I feel myself moving up. So it doesn't feel like my imagination. So when you say imagine.
Right. I'm just trying to relate it to people.
I imagine that other people would need to know the word imagine, but that's not what so anyhow. So I go up and then I hear, hey Ma. It runs in the family. Hey Ma. I said, what? She says, I don't have a body anymore. I'm all particles. And what I saw was these tiny particles of light that were just glowing, that were, you've heard me lead meditation so many times, and I say the opalescent colors. That's the colors that I was seeing, the colors that you would see in an opal, but they were all different particles. They weren't all attached, swirling. It was all individual little particles. And so, for me as a medium, it was exciting as hell to see that, because you don't usually see that when you're doing mediumship. You usually just connect to the level that you can communicate with the physical, with what was the physical energy of the person. So,
what was the feeling that went with it?
Excitation. It was the most glorious thing I ever experienced.
Wow.
And I said to one of my dear friends, if that's heaven, I'm signing up.
Wow. Wow.
Because who knows what heaven actually is? I mean, we see pictures in books, but this was so pure. I mean, the sensation of purity, the sensation of experiencing that gentleness and that glow and that love. And for me, as a visual person, I am an artist. So seeing that glow, seeing that love, seeing that amazing sense of this is what we actually are. We're energy. Wow. That this thing that we have here is not permanent.
Yeah.
But her energy, when she showed me her energy. And then we have physical phenomena happening in my house every Thursday night, which I know I mentioned to you. When Erica was at the house, every night I would go into her room, and about 9:15, I would give her a kiss goodnight, and I would turn on her white noise machine because she just thought we were too noisy. She always slept with a white noise machine. Well, since she's passed, not every night, but every Thursday night, at 9:15, we hear the sound of the white noise machine. We didn't know what it was. The white noise machine is not in my house. And my husband heard it too. Now, he is not a medium, he is a total non believer. And so for him to have experienced that,
Right.
and now to get to the point where he waits for it.
And
And
what's the feeling that comes with that for both of you?
I can only say from me, because David didn't talk much about it. I can see him waiting at times, like at 9:12, he'll say, "What time is it?" And say, "Get 3 more minutes, honey." And then 9:15, boom, it would turn on. So
how did it make you feel?
that she was calling me, that she was
Yeah.
giving me a phone call.
Oh.
And it was that kind of feeling, like when I would look down at my cell phone and I would see her name, that's what it felt like. She was coming in to say, hey.
Wow.
And that to me was so incredibly moving.
Yeah. And powerful, like what they
Powerful,
can do
yeah.
to get our attention.
Right. And think about that, what somebody in spirit has to do to get our attention.
Right.
And
So,
I'm somebody whose attention can be gotten fairly easily.
right. But David, I mean,
But
he's part of
David,
it and he's a skeptic.
so the first time it happened, I said, "What's that sound?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Is it the washing machine?" I went to see if the washing machine was leaking, because it makes a kind of sound. Excuse me. So I said, "Is the washing machine leaking?" No, no. And then the next week it happened again. And I thought I live in a condo, so I thought it was my next door neighbor's house. And so I said to her, "You're doing your wash every Thursday night at 9:15 now?" She looked at me like I had 6 heads, and she continued to walk. We're good friends, so it's okay. She didn't think I was totally crazy. I know she loves me. And then the next week, she was away on vacation, and the sound came again. So I texted her and I said, "Can we go in to check your house? I'm concerned." And so she said, "Absolutely, please go in." She didn't want to come home from vacation with, and have a flood in her house. And so we went in, and nothing. David came back. Okay, fine. Then the next week it happened again. I said, "Well, we know it's not next door. And so it's here." And he said, "Well, what do you think it is? What do you think it is? What do you think it is?" I think it's our daughter.
Wow. Wow.
And at first he didn't like hearing that. But then as time went on, because she passed April 27th, as time went on, he started asking, "Where
Yeah.
is it? Have I
Well,
heard
it
it?"
brought him comfort,
It did. It
Yeah.
did. Finally,
Yeah.
after he didn't like, because he likes to be in control, he didn't like the feeling of this is happening and he doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
So, that did happen.
So what would you say to those that are, first of all, what would you say to those that are challenged with their loved ones in, health issues, or they're in the process of end of life? What would you share with them first?
Acknowledge and then surrender your fear, firstly. That's important. To realize that you're not in this alone. To realize that you have help on both sides of life.
Yeah.
That both sides of life, you have your people here, your good friends, your family, whoever they may be. And make sure to be around good, loving people. If you had a relative that was always saying, "Oh, she was no good anyhow," don't call them now.
Yeah.
Don't give them your energy. Don't give away your energy. Your
Yeah.
energy is for something important now. And
Yeah.
that importance is to spend the time with your loved one as you can. And then if, after the fact, to again, be around people that love you, be around people that nurture you, and keep your eyes and your ears and your heart and your mind opened to the signs that you may receive, because you will. Now, an exercise that I do when I do this in like a workshop situation is to ask people to write down everything they loved about that particular person.
Oh,
And then to go into that and then say, that still exists.
yeah.
That
That's
still
beautiful.
exists. And so I lead them in a meditation. And if they meditate on their own, they could do it that way. There was a woman that was in one of my yoga classes that I took. And when I first came to the yoga class, the teacher knew who I was. And she said, that woman over there just lost her husband 2 weeks ago. Would you just talk to her? And I went over and I told her, I said, get a notebook and a pen that's used for nothing else, brand new. I said, and when you do that, pick a time. And every night, when you pick that time, you write a question that you want to ask your loved one, meditate a little bit, and then come out and just start writing. And at the
Oh,
beginning, it's going to feel like it's coming from you. But as it goes on, you're going to feel your hand just keeps writing. And you're not thinking first. And it's gorgeous.
I can feel it.
And so that woman that I told it to in my yoga class started getting signs and started getting messages and started getting, and she was a devout Catholic. This was not anything that she was going to get into. She wasn't a spiritualist, just was taking yoga for the exercise of it, a lovely lady, but that's really what she was there for. And so in looking at this other way to look at it, she could feel the warmth and the love from her husband. And she all of a sudden saw that a birdhouse that he built had birds living in it, never while he was alive. But now
Wow.
there is a family of birds living in it. And, and she would get different messages like that all along. And it helped her so much. And when my husband was having a really hard time, and I asked my guides, what can I do to help him? Because, and I said to him, I would say to him, sweetie, just think about the gifts she gave us.
Mm,
Think about the love she gave us.
mm.
Think about the laughter. I mean, we laughed. She had one heck of a sense of humor, and I love to laugh.
Yeah.
And so to think of that love that we shared and the fun that we shared and the laughter that we shared and the craziness that we shared, and, to think about that instead of thinking what you're missing,
Yeah.
that you don't have now. Because it's not going to do anything when you're just going to sit there and be miserable and think about, something happened to you and that this is about you. It's about them. Your part in this is to learn. Your part in this is to feel. Your part in this is to open your eyes. Your part in this is to love.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
it really is all about the love.
So important, Rita.
It is.
Yeah. So,
It is.
so what would you share with everyone? What's on the other side of loss?
I don't know that one ever gets totally over the loss. And so we can acknowledge that,
Yeah.
wow, today I'm feeling a little sad because I'm feeling the loss. So instead of trying to push it away, I say, yes, open it up.
Yeah.
But then allow the experiences that you've had to inspire you,
Mm, mm.
to feel the sensations of what's changing in your life. What are you now open to? What are you willing to do? What matters and what doesn't matter. I mean, that's a huge
That's a big
one.
one.
What doesn't matter
Yep.
anymore, and when you can give up what doesn't matter, that's the best thing. I don't waste my mind on what doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Today, I
Beautiful.
had a very interesting experience with a young man who, he was a troubled kid, and he's 52 now, and he's friends with me. But the other night when I was talking to him, and he was talking about how sick he was and how sick he was, and I've lost 6 friends since my daughter passed in April. So it's been a really trying time. And, if you talk about talk about the tests that we have. And so the other night he started complaining about he was sick and blah, blah, blah. And I lost it, you know. And today I texted him and I said, I want to apologize to you.
Mm.
And he said, he calls me Moms. And he said, Moms, he said, we're together. No need to worry. You never have to apologize to me. But I did. And I don't think very many people do apologize to him in his life.
Yeah.
But I wanted him to know I loved him enough that I could get out of my ego and say, I'm really sorry I lost it the other night. And this is what it was.
Wow.
And
wow.
he was totally cool with it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Wow. So any last words to share? I'm just so inspired by your journey. And I know I witnessed, the ups, the downs,
You did.
yeah. But
You did. And again, thank you for being right there by my side.
Well,
wow.
I think that's, I think as somebody that watches, sometimes you feel very helpless, but again, it comes back to love. That's what we can do, is just share the love.
It. That's exactly it. You showed me the love, so I felt secure, so I could show her the love. Joanne did it, who all of these people that were there for me. There were certain people that contacted me almost on a daily basis to find out how I was doing.
Yeah.
And were absolutely there for me. And again, I can't thank that, that ability to see that and thank them for sharing that love with me. And it brought me gratitude. It brought me and deep gratitude. I mean, the gratefulness that I feel from those people who were by my side, again, lets you know what's important and what's not.
Yeah. Yeah. So one last thought to leave everybody as they go through these holiday seasons, and they may be experiencing that missing or wanting to receive that knowing or those signs or that connection. Any last thought?
Firstly, I would say to them, appreciate the people while they're here. Nothing is worth really being mad at your loved ones about. It's really isn't. It's what's really important and what's not.
Yeah.
And then look for those gentle signs. And they may come in a lot of different ways. It could feel like something, like a little tap on your head. It could feel like something out of the corner of your eye. It can feel like something that you're just feeling in your heart. Allow yourself to feel those feelings. Acknowledge the feelings and be grateful for them. Say thank you for them. One of the things we know Spirit does love to get a good thank you.
Yeah.
So, say thank you and let them know that you're appreciative of this.
Yeah, I have to share that has been, I've just been talking about this this past week and going into Thanksgiving. I've gotten to the very deep, elated, but knowing that just thank you for everything. Thank you for everything. That it's all,
even the difficult stuff.
I know
what we learn from it and how we grow from it. As much as this was a difficult journey to go on, the amount of growth that I had, huge.
Right.
Huge.
Yeah. Huge. So thank you. Thank you, Rita. Thank you for being so, I know you've helped many and you will continue to help many. Erica is living on through you and through the journey that you had together. And, I hope some of you going into the holidays can just feel that sense of peace, but openness to allow that connection and that love to continue. And because it does, it does. Love never dies.
Love does not die.
Yeah.
Love is a pure energy. It's a pure energy. It doesn't die.
Yeah.
It doesn't die.
So blessings, everyone. And I know many of you have been commenting, and Rita, I know Rita and I will but we have been, this was just, I was so focused and I just knew we needed to just focus on talking. But thank you everybody for listening in and your comments, and, you know, blessings to everyone. And thank you, Rita. Really, I'm so grateful.
I'm grateful also. Thank you.
All right. Good
All
night,
right.
everyone.
Good night.